Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. In this video, myself and my YouTube members only audience are going to discuss Soulbound reward cards. This would mean that reward cards you earn through your time and attention of playing the game are bound to your account. They're non-tradable, non-sellable. They're restricted to your personal use and enjoyment. Would this be a good thing, a bad thing? The implications of economy are significant, and as a result, we kick around the idea, the goods, the bad, but also then talking with the community about what they think would help both the economy, the tokenomics, and even reward cards itself. I hope you stick around, stay tuned for this one. It's an amazing conversation. Have an awesome day. God bless. Let's move into that conversation around Soulbound reward cards, because that would be game changing. And I had two comments on the channel from Time and Attention guys that pushed on that one and said, I don't like that pretty much. And we're critical of what that would look like and what that would mean for this game, and how it's almost counter to the ethos of what Splinterlands has sold itself as, own your own assets, earn through time and attention. And then here we say, well, but not these ones. And then I hope you guys watched, and if you haven't, please go watch Tales from the Cryptmancer's video around this issue. I forget what it's called, but it came out yesterday or so. And he had this amazing video talking about the idea that Soulbound cards would be an answer to bot farms. And his opinion, and I think he's mostly right, is that the team would want to change how reward cards work in part because of that, and maybe in large part because of the concerns around bot farms in this game and how they extract value without adding value. I think that's a large part of why they would do this. I don't think it's the only part. And it strikes me as having pros and cons. Before I kind of unpack some of my thoughts, and then hopefully I get to hear some of your thoughts around the idea of Soulbound cards. I'd love to see comments in the chat, guys. But let me read a couple comments from the channel. They said, Soulbound seems kind of hypocritical to the whole asset ownership and Web3 argument the team constantly makes. Comparing Splinterlands to Hearthstone is when you are done with Hearthstone, all that money is gone. But with Splinterlands, you can make something back from all your assets that you own. I don't mind Soulbound if we can unbound with vouchers. And that's interesting. That's an interesting, pushback. And I actually like that a lot. I'm not sure I entirely agree with the criticism of that, but I do see value in the criticism because, well, actually, let me finish Smoke Lord's comment here first. And Smoke Lord added, not only that, they said that once maxed, they then maybe burn for DC. Wouldn't that inflate DC? Isn't that what they want to avoid? Wouldn't bots still benefit from most of this? I mean, all, I think, pretty interesting and possibly accurate stuff. Okay, so what do I want to say here first and foremost? I think the first thing that I want to say is that I think there are pros and cons to a Soulbound reward card. The first thing is that they talked about in the clip that, reward cards are worth practically nothing. And that is a product of everyone being able to earn them through play and then being able to sell them in the market. That was Matt's words, roughly. I'm summarizing. I feel, though, that that's actually fine on one hand. Now, they're worthless financially right now. But as I've said so many times on the channel, I don't think the price represents the value. And I don't think most people respect the future value of these assets. So when you hear Matt came on and he said, a new reward card comes out, I wait a week, I buy a max copy, and then I forget about it. Well, that's not my play. My play is to recognize that each one of these is eventually going to be off the market. Even if there are too many of them right now, that won't always be the case. And I believe so firmly in the future of the game that the reward cards are actually worth way more than the price implies. So that's my first kind of criticism. That's actually towards Matt and his outlook around. He seemed to be implying they're actually kind of financially worthless, and that's a problem. I don't agree. I think that's a short-term thought. But he made some good points. Matt talked about how, well, look, we either make fewer of each of them. Like we could have done like a smaller release of each of these cards, and then that would have made their value more expensive, which is true. That is accurate, and I agree to that. But he said on the other side of that coin, we would then have to create even more reward cards all the time, which is there's concerns around power creep, and there's concerns around, the art design team and constantly having to, have them active on these projects for the sake of keeping it fresh. So those are hurdles or financial costs or possibly barriers. I guess I'm okay with it staying just the way it is one of the first things I want to say. But if it was Soulbound, I could really see interesting benefits out of that. I love what we do with Gladiators, and maybe Gladiators is where it should stop. Maybe that is the one thing that we want to have Soulbound. But I love the conversation around having other Soulbound items, whether it's these reward cards. Maybe that's a bridge too far. Because if these reward cards became Soulbound, I don't know where the financial opportunity in the short term is to new people. I really agree that that's true, that would dry up a lot of, and this was a point Tails made, again, leaning heavily on his video, you should check it out. That would dry up a lot of the financial opportunity to newer players who are looking for some financial extraction to pay for possible card acquisition or rentals. And if that goes away and SPS is staked on after you earn it and there's no more DEC, I don't know how new people get the ball rolling. So I see those are cons. Like, I want to have some liquidity for those players, but I also like the prospect of Soulbound things that really speak to the time and attention you've invested in the game. And again, maybe it's best that those be Gladiator alone, or that it be something altogether new. Whether it's titles could be interesting to Soulbind. They haven't been bound yet. If they were bound and you bought 1,000 Chaos Legion packs, maybe you should be the Legionnaire, but maybe if you didn't, then you can't earn that title. That sort of thing could be interesting. There's other things they could imagine. I do kind of feel like rewards is probably a bridge too far. But one thing that Tails talked about in his video was that the real problem that is being skirted here, and that's bending the team in pretzels, like trying to figure it out, is the issue of rearranging rewards in a manner that can't be exploited by bot armies, bot farms. And while I think that is true, he talked about KYC and how that should be the path. I just don't know. And this may be where I want to land before I read some comments from you guys. I don't see that this community, who is heavily invested at this moment, is going to support that. And I don't know if that's going to produce growth in our game or actually diminish the audience. Because you've heard Aggrod say, and I think he's right, the people that we appeal to, first and foremost, the low-hanging fruit for investment in Splinterlands is not gamers. It's not collectible card owners. It's actually blockchain enthusiasts. And those people that actually believe in decentralization, that actually believe in be your own bank, I don't buy for a second, myself included, that KYC is high on your priority list. In fact, it's one thing you'll do, I think, reluctantly when you have to. And trying to separate between whether that would be a collective benefit or a collective detriment, I don't know, but I lean towards detriment. So in conclusion, I don't know how I feel about the Soulbound reward cards exactly, but I like the idea of more Soulbound assets. I think the comments mentioned earlier do point to something accurate. I think maybe if we were to use vouchers, it could be something that would add utility to vouchers, plus a way where this becomes, that would add so much utility to vouchers, because that would really be something people would want to do, especially across accounts that you hold. You're going to want to consolidate so you can upgrade. And the DC burning thing is so true too. Like, we don't want more DC is one of the problems, but also, why would we burn it? I didn't even get that part. Like, just leave it, let me have multiple copies. I can put it on land or something. So I don't think this idea was fully hatched yet. I don't think it was fully thought out. And I like the criticism and the critique from you guys as well as Tails. And I do think that the bot farm problem is almost the bigger problem in the background. I don't know how to solve that. And yeah, KYC would be part of that. But again, is that going to be a greater detriment or benefit? I would lean towards detriment because of who we are. What do you guys think? Can't wait to see some comments. I'm going to go check out the chat. Gathering says reward cards are supposed to be an asset that rewards you for playing, not something you can sell to others. People that grind every day to get rewarded. That's an interesting take, Gathering. So saying the reward cards are supposed to benefit you, not be a liquid asset. Interesting. I mean, I see where you're going, but devil's advocate, it is a thing where that liquidity has always been an option for the player. It's always been a thing, including me as an early player years ago with this game. You guys know I famously got a gold foil Ruler of the Sea. That card is like a multi-$1,000 card now. I sold it for 50 or 60 bucks. And the liquidity around that, the option to sell it, sparked other things. It sparked other card purchases. It sparked a deeper interest in the game. It financed a growth and it excited, kind of, it stirred something up in me to get me more excited about this game, recognizing in that moment, wow, this is really crazy opportunity. And so I see your point, but I see the value in letting people have that liquid financial opportunity. Paul says, unbind with vouchers. This is very interesting. Yeah. I mean, vouchers are in trouble. And I saw Bulldog do a comment on Twitter talking about GLX and how GLX packs, I guess, weren't, how did he put it? It's some utility around the GLX stuff. If it had been partnered with the excitement and the bull run of GLX, that would have triggered crazy pack sales. But having missed that moment is going to probably translate to a really reduced excitement, exuberance, and whatnot. And the reason I bring that up in this context is because I think it translates to vouchers. If we could create excitement around, if you create enough mechanics that allow vouchers to disappear and therefore appreciate in price because of supply demand crunch, then that translates to a certain type of exuberance that can trickle into like the broader system. They are so intertwined, right? It's like when SPS pumps, that can translate to DC and vouchers. Well, more likely, if SPS was to pump, you'd see an interest in validator nodes. You'd probably see more interest in the game because of the rewards being paid in SPS, right? So there's trickle down effects to how the economy is so interconnected. And I think like GLX, the GLE, the packs and whatnot, and the sort of the missed opportunity there, we could almost trigger a new opportunity within Splinterlands if vouchers were to go from, say, 13 cents where they are now to like $1 or $2 and have some stability there. I don't mean a flash in the pan because of one-offs, but I mean like a true, deep, lasting utility that you want constantly. You never have enough vouchers. You're always saying, man, I wish I had more vouchers. I want to move more of these reward cards over. I want to make more of them sellable maybe, or rentable. Like through vouchers, I can do that. Or, you know what I mean? Like that could trigger something where vouchers start to spike, and then the implications of that on validator nodes, on SPS value, because you get vouchers through staking SPS. So there's implications as we create more utility. And so I do agree that Deus's idea there is probably, if you're going to do this, and I'm not certain it's the best thing, like I said earlier, but if we were going to soul bind reward cards, I think you got to have some mechanic where you can pay to pull those out, to make those liquid in some sense, whether that's to unlock rentals or whether it's to unlock movement between accounts or whatever. Chuni says Soulbound cards create value of accounts, which is great in my opinion. That was something I didn't mention, but I was definitely thinking. Yeah, I mean, Infidel 1258 is an old school account. What if those cards, 3 years, they're soulbound, and that Ruler of the Seas was still mine because of that nature? I mean, it's interesting, right? Like somebody said, might have been Tails, might have been Matt, but I think it would create some pretty cool decks of cards where you have that card. Wow, that's old school. And I think that's neat. That's like a prestige element. It's kind of like when you play any sort of current, AAA video game title, and you see you play online maybe, and you see they have an old skin that's no longer available, and you're like, where's that skin from? Oh, it's season 1. Like, you had to be here. That's cool. I like that kind of thing. So I do like that side of it. Again, is it primarily a positive or is it primarily a negative? I don't know. Back in the day, I bought 6K creeping ooze for 1.5 cents each, says Paul Taylor. Wow. 1.5 cents. Creep. Look at this puppy here. $3.40 each. But mind you, you're not going to sell 6,000 for that price. If you were to, for instance, sell, and the thing about creeping ooze is that you don't necessarily want a 500 BCX copy. That's one of those cards where you need to navigate purchases and acquisition of cards in this game in such a thoughtful way, because it's possible that you over level and you just don't need to. And I think this is one of those cards. Like I would argue, Probably 25 is really the sweet spot. It's going to apply to a lot of interested renters or buyers. It's got the second hit point. It's got the slow. It's got the a melee attack. And you might argue you don't want the melee attack because you want to be a snipe defender and you want to be available in no melee modes. Great card. Amazing buy. Definitely an example of how reward cards can wildly appreciate and how you don't want to sleep on cards based on their price. The price is irrelevant. The value is everything. If you can see value where others overlook it, that's where you're going to turn, you're going to make money. My worry is that SPS will see more sell pressure since there is less thing to sell a la reward cards. Yeah. SPS, yeah. I think that's almost certain. Deus comments, it goes, there's also the RNG element. There are reward cards in print I've still never pulled in a chest, let alone maxed out. I know that would be annoying, wouldn't it? Like picture gladiators. There are gladiators that you want to have and you've never seen. There are gladiators you want to max out and there's no hope of that happening. So yeah, that would be frustrating. And yet it would make it really cool if you got those ones. You know what I mean? Like if you got a Quora level 2 right now, I don't know if everybody knows that card. It's a very strong gladiator. It's a green team. If you have Quora level 2, it's a strong card. Why? Because for one thing, it's got the double attack. For another thing, it's got a huge hit point pool. It's got the bloodlust. If this thing goes bloodlusting, it's going 3/3, and then the speed gets out of control. But look at, if you make it to level 2, it's actually very pivotal. You get that one more hit point, which means you get one more heal out of your heal. And man, if you ever get it up into here with your, 13 hit points, the 3 melee and 2, like this thing's a beast. Forget about bringing out, like you bring out like Archmage Arius and you buff both of those attacks and you get the immunity too. And this, like some of these cards are so crazy. And this is an epic. Like the legendaries. Let me see some of these legendaries. Some of these I don't have, as you can see. You know what I mean? Like these cards are game changers. And if you get even a level 1, you're sometimes laughing. But I would be frustrated if I didn't have and couldn't acquire. So I hear you, Dis. Make reward cards on a 6-month window. After 6 months, they rotate out and new ones rotate in. Interesting. And so it wouldn't even be a number of release. It would be like a period of time. I kind of like that. Now you would have to you'd have to cross the bridge of that'd be more demanding on the art team. It'd be possibly a concern around power creep because recognize the fact that every time a new card is created, you have to thoughtfully consider its stats and abilities to make sure it's not transforming the meta in a massive way with making old cards obsolete or redundant, because that then takes away value from older assets. So you need new innovative abilities and then thinking through those without going too far to make that crazy game-changing power creep. And so every time we issue a new card, that's a possibility. And so if we make it where every 6 months we have another 20 reward cards or 10 reward cards, theoretically that'd be probably a doubling of the sort of reward cards that are available in the game, because we've issued 21 reward cards like roughly a year ago, a year and a half maybe, and they haven't sold out. And let's go quickly look at, so the Venara Heatsmith's still out there. It's at 88%. This thing launched when my channel kind of started blowing up, something like a year. And so if we cut reward card issuance down to 6 months, I think you probably need 20 to 25 every 6 months. Is that too much for the team? Is that too much from to navigate through a power creep concern? Or is it plausible? If it's technically plausible from like a governance, from a management, from a team resources, time efficiency standpoint, I actually like the idea that it would be like time sensitive windows. And it would almost be a new movement of the game to more of a time sensitive perspective, because we're talking about introducing packs on a 9-month window with a 3-month downtime. And you can have rewards out for 6 months and then a different set out for 6 months. I think you could generally predict how many reward cards are going to be issued, and you'd have some average sense of what the total issuance of a card would be. It wouldn't be crazy in terms of issuance as long as you had the right number of reward cards. Maybe you need 25 or 30 reward cards every 6 months. That way, no one of them is like, you get 10 million copies of John Doe card, but you get, 1 million copies of Jane Doe, because 1 6-month window, you got 5 cards out, and another 6-month window you get 10 cards out. You see how that could be a problem. So, I mean, definitely worth thinking through. I think that could be valuable. Battle Pass is the best idea to get new owners, players, in my opinion. I actually haven't put much thought into that, but the Battle Pass idea I like. The idea of putting in like a certain amount a year, a month, like per month or season or year, and you get a Battle Pass to Splinterlands. In other games that would look like, well, maybe you have online access, maybe you get certain skins, maybe you get certain cards that you can play with that are specific to a certain window of time. Like in 2023, the Battle Pass includes these 3 cards. And in 2024, it includes these 3 cards or 10 cards or whatever. And maybe it's full access to, you know, a bronze level deck with none of the penalty associated with oh man, that's hard. As I say those words, I start thinking, okay, well, a bot farm is going to pay that fee. So this is the bending ourselves into pretzels that we have to do to think through the finances and think through the reward structure in such a manner that it can be enjoyed by many, but not exploited by some. Exploited meaning specifically bot farms who extract and return nothing. You guys who play the game, enjoy the game, even if you have 10 accounts, and even if you use bots, are not the sort of parasite that is a concern to this game. The parasite that is a concern to this game, and that's a harsh word because I don't actually think it's entirely problematic. I could give you 3 reasons why bot farms help the game. Mostly though, they are parasitical and they are extracting value. They're extracting life while offering little or nothing. And that's those who have thousands and thousands of accounts who run at bronze level or who send certain card assets between accounts so they can reach the higher tiers to extract certain value, or the marketplace, you know, to underbid or they drive up Chaos Legion card values so that by creating buy walls on the marketplace in order to drive up the perceived value of Chaos Legion packs so they can sell into that buying pressure on Chaos Legion packs. These are all kind of manipulations and extractions from our ecosystem that are primarily bot run, that are not like a one player running a few accounts, enjoying the game, collecting cards, playing and you know and hanging out in chats like you guys. So Battle Pass is very interesting to me. I wonder if there was a Battle Pass, I think I would want to see a KYC around that, because Battle Pass could be deeply helpful to a brand new player who wants to skip some of the crazy barriers of collection power, of ghost card penalties, of, you know, SPS requirements, of, you know, on and on and on. There's so many little hurdles to technically understanding and playing and being rewarded through Splinterlands. What if a Battle Pass took care of all of that, making it super simplistic to log on, play, understand, have fun, and was not exploitable by bot farms? That sounds interesting to me. I like that idea. That would be a lot of extra cards to make through the right. Yeah, Eli, I agree. KYC detrimental, definitely, says Bobby. Yeah,